It's Cape Ann Report, and I'm your host, Maureen Aylward. Cape Ann Report is local programming by 1623 Studios, and we're looking at local issues through meaningful conversation. This show, we're focusing on library services and how those things are changing in the digital age. And before we get to our conversation, I'd like to invite you, the viewer, to engage with us on social media. Please check us out on Facebook, like us on Facebook, look at us on the web. Please send in the issues that you care about. We want to hear from you. And now to our conversation with our lovely guests. I have Cindy Grove, the library director at Rockport Library, Katherine Prum, who's focusing on community strategy and issues at the Sawyer Free Library, and Deborah Kelsey, library director at Sawyer Free Library in Gloucester. Welcome to Cape Ann Report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Libraries are pretty much the cornerstone of any community, and I will say that what's a community without a library, right? They're essential services. But I want to talk about what's so essential about library services, because is there a misunderstanding about things people are talking about with libraries? Are they relevant any longer? Do we need them if we have a phone in our pocket that is that can look up anything? So let's start our conversation and around this. And what do you think? Cindy, let's start with you.
Certainly.
Rockport's certainly a small community.
Yep, we are
and very different from the Gloucester community. So what are you finding in Rockport, since it's a very traditional town? And
Certainly. And Rockport is very different in the fact that it's also a very seasonal town. So Rockport tends to mirror more of the libraries down Cape Cod than it does perhaps some of the other small towns in the area. But when you discussed access and people wondering, well, why do I need a library when I have the internet and everything's in my pocket? And that is a question that librarians get asked all the time. What do you do now that there's so much available on the internet? And a big part of what we do is help people navigate what is on the internet, because there is a lot of misinformation on the internet. And we're not there to say what's necessarily right or wrong, but to help people navigate and understand. And I have to admit, as a librarian, it was pretty easy when you could walk up to a book, open up the back, show them the author's bio, and it was very clear where the stance of the book may be coming from. Where now, when you're on an online resource, it's much more difficult to determine whether or not the information being presented is factual or relevant to you. So that's the large, or bias. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of what librarians do now, is help people navigate the flood of information that's available online. And
I talk about a vital service.
It's incredible.
Let's just pause there, because it's so critical right now, right? With fake news, misinformation, the flood of things that are coming through right now. And Deborah, how would you like to address that? Or,
I just think we have a misperception that is common in our understanding, and even the dictionary definition of library is a repository of books. And yes, it is, but it's also so much more. It's a place where people come to learn and to grow and to expand their world and to connect beyond and with each other. And it's amazing, like every day we're talking about it, it's really like we are so transformative. Every day there's little miracles that happen in our libraries.
Like what?
Oh, God.
Little miracles happening in
well,
libraries.
I was
What's
thinking
going on?
about the little story the other day that one of my staff told me, which was, we have this summer reading programs, libraries rock, and we had this program, and there's all this rock music from our generation, hate to say, something that the children don't know, but we all do. And the person came in, it was just like, oh, it's going to be a great day at the library. And we had this standing room only program with magic and comedy and music, and it was just an engagement piece to get people thinking. It's about the whole world of literacy is so beyond the book, and even to the fact that social literacy is important, and we don't have that when we're always in front of a screen, to all these other levels of things. So it's just like one of these little moments of, it's going to be a great day, and then tomorrow something else is happening, and won't that be great? This Friday it's chickens. I don't know. Could be anything.
The choice. Yeah.
The
choice. Yeah.
Are libraries, should they be literacy centers?
Yes.
Is that because digital literacy certainly is something that everyone can benefit from?
There's so many different forms of literacy, and if you look at them and you see where the libraries are, we're positioned to expand the community's literacy in all its areas. So some we focus more on, obviously, around reading and writing, but there's also all these other aspects that come into play of technological literacy, computational literacy, social literacy.
Financial literacy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know,
health.
It's all part of what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
And we try to do that in as painless a way as possible. So it's through fun, it's through discovery, it's through, surprise.
Katherine, what are you finding in some of your research that you've done for the Sawyer Free Library around community relevance or community engagement with the library?
Fundamentally, that the library is perceived and valued as a free access to everyone, and it's an equalizer in a community. That it's free access to information, resources, technology, that anyone of any socioeconomic or wherever you are, the library is there to provide that to you. And so the sense of the value of the library as a center of community and a center of knowledge is critical. There's always a sense that it's always there when you need it, and so a lot of people are feeling, primarily because they have information in their pocket all the time, that they don't need it, but what they really do desire is a place to go and find community, and the library provides that epicenter.
So something Katherine just said made me think about it's always there when you need it, but libraries are seeing reductions in being open, and I want to address that because in Rockport there's usually issues with the budget. Small town, small budget. So, Cindy, take us down the road there. How is that impacting the way that the library provides services if the Rockport budget comes up and operation times are cut? What are you finding there?
Well, it is luckily right now we've been able to maintain our hours, as odd as they might be, but we are looking at our hours and trying to find ways to add hours that the people in the community are looking for. We did our strategic plan a few years ago, and that was our number one issue that came up, was the fact that people wanted more hours. They wanted to be able to visit the library during the mornings, where a lot of families and seniors are looking for things and activities to do, and that's a time when it's easier to get downtown Rockport, to be honest. But that being said, we are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we are in everybody's pocket because libraries are both a physical and virtual spaces now, where we have ebooks and downloadable audiobooks and streaming movies and downloadable magazines. We have
comic books,
we have
TV shows.
We have all of that. So, stop
Research
buying your
databases.
Kindle books because you can get all of that through your public library for free.
So back to the budget.
Yes.
How does that impact your work as the library director in Rockport? Is it just times, or is it staff too? Is it staff that's available, or how are you managing that?
That it goes hand in hand. The reason why we can't add hours is because we would need additional staffing and need to be able to fund additional staffing to work those added hours. So that it goes hand in hand. So that's the real issue, is the fact that we do need additional funding to hire the staff to be open more. So it is something that everyone is, it's out on the table everyone's aware of it, and now it's a matter of finding ways to make it work, creating plans, looking for opportunities, so to give the community the library that it needs and deserves.
Exactly.
So Deborah and Katherine too, from the Gloucester Library, what are some of the things that are holding you back right now in terms of being able to deliver what you want? There's certainly some things that we'll get to in a little while that I have some questions on. But for now, looking at budgets and looking at the issues that can keep you from delivering a full set of services, what are those?
The library in Gloucester is a very well funded by the community, but it's also a very expensive facility, and we're very dispersed between the floors and the amount of things that we can actually do and the amount of staff versus the number of hours that we're required to be open, because all libraries in the state need to be certified. So we go through, there's rules around all of this. So we meet the minimum standards. That's all we can do. So what we would love to do and what we're asked every year is to be open on Sundays, and that's just not, it's not possible. We don't have staff to go out into the community, which is what we want to do and what we need to do. We can't just be in the building. And
The Rockport Library is open on Sunday though too, right?
We are.
Yeah.
We are closed on Fridays.
And mornings, and no mornings.
And mornings.
Yeah,
And
no morning.
versus we're the earliest open library in the state at 8:30 in the morning. Everybody kind of wonders how come. And then, we're open full days and Saturdays. And so by the time you've done all of that there's no more there.
Yeah.
When really we want to be able to leave the building and bring the library to people wherever they are. I mean, that's the hope and the dream for all of us.
So ideally you would have a virtual library, a physical library,
And
a mobile library. Does Rockport have that ambition too, to sort of
Yeah, and
that
we've
would
been
be
able to
service?
do that to some degree. So we've been able to have a pop-up library at Motif Number 1 Day recently, where we were able to register patrons, give them cards, sign them up for summer reading, check out materials that we had available. So, and we would love to do more of that. We've done it at the schools, and we love to find other avenues and other places to go where we can meet the people where they are.
Okay, so here's a question regarding the Sawyer Free Library and around the building. So over the last couple of years, there's been movement afoot to see if something can be done with the building, the main library building, not the Saunders House. But I'm asking for an update on this, mainly because there's been some controversy. There's been some real big pushback from the community in Gloucester around what they want to have, what they don't want to have, what's acceptable to them, what's unacceptable, and mostly around the historic nature of the main library building. So what's going on with that, and can you bring us up to date on the building side of things and how that's moving forward?
And so it's not even as simple as to say yes or no to the Saunders House. So what's clear is our facility is constraining us to be able to be a safe and modern place for people to come and do what they need to do to meet their own needs. So we know that to be true, and now we've been through a rather arduous process to qualify the community for state funding to build a facility. So we have a provisional grant for a little over $9 million. We are about in the center of a large pack of communities that have approved projects. I think there are about 25 projects. I think we're about 10th now on the waiting list. And what has to happen is so back to where we are. We designed to get a grant. We've been awarded the grant provisionally. now we need to design for the community, because that design was just to meet the grant specifications given the short time frame that we had to do that work.
Do you think a lot of the community pushback was because the design was just a holding place to get the grant? Do you think
I
that
think
people were
the
shocked about
I think
the
that
modern?
I think the community is not arguing the need for a more contemporary, functional, up-to-date space. They're arguing the aesthetics of the design, and I think they're right to do that, and they should. And the community has a right to weigh in and have it be the library that they see themselves in. And I really think that the library needs to reflect all of the neighborhoods of Gloucester, the people who live there, and what's important to the people of Gloucester. So the natural world and the environment, it needs to be green. It needs to have a maritime flavor to it. It needs to reflect the history of the community. It needs to be a hub of arts and culture. It needs to have an aspect of how innovative Gloucester is. That was absent in the design that we proposed. It just got us the money. So now it's really stepped back.
So now you have the money. So
we have the money.
has been approved, preliminarily approved.
So depending on how outrageous we go. So if we decide at this point that we want to renovate the Saunders House, do something with the rest of it, and we no longer want to propose new construction, we have to go back and have another design approved by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. We're not there, and we don't know whether that's the right thing to do. They've been strong in their feeling that there's no way we can actually put modern library services into the Saunders House, and that we need to find another more respectful use of an antique building than what a library would do to it, and that we need a modern facility, and trying to rework Manel may not get us there. But that is undetermined. So we have a lot of people working on who are stewards of the antique, the Saunders House, thinking about that and how we can best preserve that building and use it. And we have a lot of people who are thinking about, do we renovate Manel? We don't really know the answers as to whether or not we can, or whether we should, or whether we need to build new, and how would we do that, and how would it look? We pretty much know it needs to look kind of like what it does.
So it sounds like you've gone through this learning
Big
curve, like a
process.
big process of learning, and now you're stepping back after the community pushed back and said, well, hold on a minute, we're not sure.
Well,
what
we
we
would
want.
have done that anyway. The problem was we didn't communicate that effectively, and I think that the community had a sense of kind of outrage and also couldn't listen. So it's both sides. And
so this pause is a good thing. So pushing the pause button here, allowing some of the parties to get grounded again, and then come together for the next phase. It sounds like that's all been almost helpful and healthy.
So that's
Can
what
we say that?
really.
Yeah, Katherine, what have you seen? I mean, what?
This is the whole point. Was all we heard was, you didn't ask us. And it was like, and now we really need to ask.
So, Katherine, you're doing the asking in the community?
So not specifically about the building, although that certainly has been a question that people have had, what's going on with the building? And so basically I've reiterated they're in a pause to assess what the next steps are. But the desire in the community, at least is, from the feedback we've gotten through our community engagement activities, has really been a desire to see a building that is welcoming, that's inviting, that people want to go to. They find, for the most part, they're nostalgic about the library that exists, but they really want to see something that's that speaks to how they feel about the community at large. that it's open, that there's light, there's green, that there's a good use of indoor and outdoor space, that there are, it has sort of has an important feeling because of all of the buildings in that area. They have gravitas, right? The City Hall, the Cape Ann Museum.
Right. It's in a historic area.
It's in that historic area,
town, of the
right?
City, yeah.
At the same time, they want it to feel intimate. They want it to feel like this is where I'm going to go and meet my friends to have a discussion about some, book they're reading or some archive they're looking for, or basically some game they want to play. So that is, and that there needs to be designated spaces for different use. There's quiet space, there's study space, there's working space, there's reading space, but then there's also, that interactive space, the learning spaces.
And performance
and right now,
space.
right now,
Right.
and the Gloucester has wonderful resources, but it doesn't have a place downtown to really meet.
No, the meeting space is really vital.
Restricted, right?
And Rockport doesn't have, it has the Friends Room upstairs,
Right.
but it doesn't really have a collective community space to gather.
No, we have small pockets where some areas where conversation is encouraged, and some areas where where it's really for quiet study. But again, it's a very similar.
We're struggling with the same thing.
We have the same. Yeah.
We've been trying. Both of us have been trying to create niches within the environment, but essentially, these niches don't have walls. There's really not a way to create. You want to be with each other, but you don't want to hear each other all of the time. Yeah. So it's nice if you can have like a glass wall, and it's just like we don't have that animal.
Yeah. Right.
So it's a tension constantly between people making noise, other people needing quiet, technology, not technology, performance that's disruptive and exciting and miserable for some people. And it's like, what do you do with all of that? It's like there's so many competing uses of one space going on.
Well, how do you look at this?
Well, we've got to say, okay, we're noisy right now. Sorry. And other times,
with what you've got, how do you work it with what you've got?
It's a delicate dance because
really
it's
is.
also was thinking about this today with other colleagues. It's like public libraries are so amazing. Librarians are so brave. People for any reason come into our libraries and pretty much ask anything, and we better be ready to deliver. And if we don't, it's bad. And then on top of it, we've got whatever emotional place that person may be in, and their needs, they could be desperate. And the fact that we have the courage to put ourselves out there to say that we're completely open and free, and hey, anybody can come in and do what they need to do here, and we're going to help you. It's kind of an amazing thing.
But to talk about the library and the library that exists, one of the challenges of libraries is that they were built in a particular time for a particular use, as the evolution, as the innovation in how you use the library and why you use the libraries, the space itself, the physical space, doesn't necessarily lend to those new usages. And so I think that both yours and Gloucester Library has done a tremendously good job of trying to adapt. And so there are these sort of interim issues of, now there's people talk more in the library, because there are computers or there's more noise. And for somebody who thinks of a library only as a place to read and study, they're not going to necessarily be comfortable, or they'll feel frustrated.
So there's a new understanding that has to happen with library patrons.
Right.
So does that need to shift?
No, I think it's our physical structures are not. I think Katherine hit it. That we were built at a time where the majority of the space was quiet, and the activities that you did in the space were also quiet.
Right.
Even among the staff, you weren't answering the telephone. You weren't operating all of this noisy equipment, and now we're the complete opposite. People who seek quiet, they have to have a place to go.
Right.
But our libraries were built at a time where they that wasn't built into them.
Yeah.
There's no place for anybody to go.
Right.
So we have all of this. Where do the teens go? They should play.
Well, I have a question about teens in the last few minutes that we have on the show today.
Uh-oh.
Teens.
We love teens. Yeah.
I have a story about teens.
Well, as a mother of 3 boys, the library was not a place where they really went. I mean, they went when they had to go.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted them to go down and, be involved, and because I was involved in my library when I was growing up. They had theater program. It was the only place you could go to get that during the summer, especially. But the teen demographic is so vital. They've got so many different kinds of needs, and I'm talking like anywhere from 13 to 20, I guess, or 12 to 20, around that, young people. How do you get them more involved to see the library as something where they belong?
There's a lot of answers to that, but it's you have to create space that they feel is theirs.
Yeah.
It needs to be comfortable. It's an extension of their home. It has to be safe. They have to be able to do what they would prefer to do, and they need to be able to socialize. They need to be able to play games. They need to be able to watch a movie or whatever, as well as study or fool around. We had a kind of a silly thing happen today. They decided they were going to have a lemonade stand in the middle of the library, and they're going, lemonade for sale. Well, it's kind of a problem because they didn't ask. But, I thought, well, that's kind of an extension of your home. How fun is that?
Instead of being on the sidewalk, they're in the library. Why not, right?
And it's just like you really have to just realize that this is the home away from home. This is the place you can go, meet up with your buddies, or study for your exams, or, take a little snooze over in the corner, pretend you're maybe reading.
Is this forwarding or shuttling forth the idea of more innovation in the library?
Yeah, it's a constant try it.
It's transformation of the library, innovation.
It's listening to the community. So, it's listening to the teens and saying, well, what do you want from your library? Talking to the children, and the parents, what do you want from your library? And then responding to that, because an innovative library in Rockport is going to be different than an innovative library in Gloucester or Boston. We're all going to be listening and responding to our communities if we're doing our jobs. Yeah. We
spend a lot of time because our libraries, our communities are so different.
Right.
We're right next to each other, but they're so different.
Yeah.
And it's just like what we were talking about is like, how can we regionally provide what's needed? It means all 4 of us have to work together.
Yeah, that's the next step.
Because we're not all going to do the same thing.
No, and that's a vital thing too to have on Cape Ann, is that the 4 different communities are doing something different, but yet pulled together. So that's about all the time we have for the show. And I want to thank you for being on the show and also addressing some meaningful issues I feel that the communities need to take a look at. And let's hope that things keep evolving.
Yeah,
and thank you for being brave library directors.
I'd love to come back for round 2.
Okay, round 2. Ding, ding.
There we go.
To our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in today. Until the next time on Cape Ann Report, take care and check us out on social media. Engage with us. Tell us what you think. Take care.